Hi everybody, Kat here, or also known as Irene. I am looking at the Mile High FX cosmetic brushes. These were actually gifted to me at Max Convention, and these are all rounds. There are different sizes starting from 0 all the way up through 12, and I think most of you know that I use a lot of detail brushes, so more of the smaller brushes, 0, 1, 2s, 3s, and 4s. I don't really gravitate to the larger brushes that much. I don't know if it's just because of the type of artwork that I personally do, but because we have the brush strokes page, I just wanted to go ahead and, pull these out, try them. This is a first attempt in using them, and I'm just going to kind of go over them and show you what they look like. So I think I'm actually missing the number 6, but I have all the other ones here. I don't know if it somehow slipped out of the packet when I was actually at Max, but I'll show you what I have here, and then I'll talk about, how they work for me. Now, as always, brushes are going to work different from everybody, but a number 4 is kind of what I gravitate to, a number 4, number 3. So let's just see how these work, and I'll go ahead and start doing my demo on the paper and then on my arm. I'm going to start with the 0, 1, and 2 because these, again, are the ones I normally gravitate to. I do a lot of very detailed work with my cartoon art, and I need a brush with a good point. I need one that I can do swirls and drag and drops and just, various little curvature type of creations. I know they all have a proper name, but leave it to me not to give them the proper name. Anyway, on the 0, that one was working pretty well. It actually did pretty well with one load for being such a small brush. This one right here is the number 1, and it seems to be doing okay so far, not having any issues. But I do notice that I am losing some of the paint. So it seems like I'm losing some of the paint where I'm having to reload. So you can see on the 0, I only did one load and got all of that, but in order to get what I got there, I had to do 2 loads. And then now I am actually trying the number 2, and it's the same way here. Now, to be fair, I am doing this on paper, and as we all know, when you do it on paper, it's a lot different. Now, I have a little bit of fuzz at the very end of this particular one. I don't know if it's fuzz or it's just a little bit of a string that's longer and it's causing me heartburn. See what it's doing there? So that's not working for me. Now I have the 4, 7, and 8 that I'm going to try. As you can see, they're getting a little bit larger in size. I'm going to start with the number 4 at first. And again, so different when you're doing this on paper than when you're doing it on your arm. Right now, it's performing pretty well. One of the things I have noticed about some of the brushes, and it just may be the batch that I've got, right at the very end, there is like this little peach fuzz or this little bit of extra hair that was not trimmed exactly the way it should have been, maybe with the other bristles. And when that happens, sometimes when you start doing a lot of swirls or you start losing or using rather your brushes a lot, you'll start to see those little bits of splitting. And I'm just kind of playing around, and you can see right there I got a little bit of a split, but it's a hair, it's just a slight hair of a split. I don't have the 6, I'm jumping over to the 7, and I'm just doing the same thing, swirls, teardrops, drag and drops, and I just want to see how it's working. It's holding paint really well, small split right there, and again, it just has that little bit of, I don't know, just like this really small one straggler of hair. It's driving me batty. So I'll probably go back and I'll trim it, but you have to be really careful when you do that. I wouldn't recommend it, just simply because when you start doing that, you could potentially damage the other bristles, losing the point altogether. But you see right there where I'm pulling. So I think it may just be this particular batch that I got. Now, if I had some beautiful yellow on this brush, I would think that this size brush would be really super pretty if I was doing some flowers like daisies and things like that, where probably you're pulling the brush in a different way. You're pulling it straight down like I am right here, and that's probably not going to cause any issues if you've got a few stragglers. Jumping to the 11 and 12, I can't remember the last time I used an 11 or a 12. Of course, doing smaller artwork, I'm not using those bigger brushes. I do know that there are a lot of face painters. Oh, excuse my cat. Shadow just wanted to be in the picture. But again, it's, and I'm trying to hold him off. But again, I don't really use these size brushes. And I'm going to guess if you're a body painter, if you're doing larger striping, things like that, you would. But because I don't use them, this could be an artist faux pas where I'm not swirling exactly the right way. Maybe I'm not holding it at the angle I need to hold it at, just simply because the balance between the bristles and the brush is different. So now I'm going to jump over to this other side because you can see where I had all sorts of variations of splitting over to the left. And I just want to see if I move to this yet bigger brush and if I'm going to get the same thing. And I already am getting the same thing. So I don't know, to be honest with you, if it's me, just because I don't use these larger brushes and I'm not used to them. You have to get used to brushes. When you're not used to using certain size brushes, you have to get used to them. And clearly, it's one I'm not used to. I'm going to try it on my arm, and I can see right there it started to separate. So I'm just going to do a little bit more and pull it a little bit more. I'm getting really nice like points though at the very end. And I'm sorry I'm out of frame, but yeah. And I'm losing paint too. So I think for a larger brush to be losing paint that quickly, it may be, again, improper load. I might not be loading it correctly. But I love that I can get the fine line. So when I'm doing the drag and drops, I like getting that fine line. Moving over to the other one, I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to basically see if I can get these swirls down in here. Already it's performing differently on my arm than it is on paper. So on skin, it's a whole lot better. And just again, coming around. And I'm not trying to be perfect by any means of the measure. I'm just trying to work the brush a little bit. This is something that I'm really going to have to get used to because I just clearly am not used to working with larger brushes. Yeah, and there's that little piece that's driving me crazy again. I don't know why. There's just a couple of these that have that at the very end. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of finish up playing with this, and then I'm going to jump back down to my smaller sizes because these are the ones that I'm used to working with. This one is the 0. I like the 0. The 0 holds a lot of paint, believe it or not. And I'm getting really super pretty drag and drops. I'm getting really nice swirls out of it. I don't have that crazy one little piece that's driving me crazy on this one. So this 0 for me works out really well. Now, the telltale sign, of course, like anything, is how long do you use it, and then what does that feel like? I'm going to jump over here to the number 4, just simply because I do use this size of a brush, and I want to see how this works on the skin. Same thing, working much better on the skin than it did on paper. Not having any issues really, just getting those really fine points that I'm looking for, because when I'm doing that detail work, I want that. And as I'm jumping all over the place, let's jump over back to the number 1. So I'm going to go back over here to the number 1 because, again, it is a size that I use a lot. And you can see these little drag and drops, they're working out really well. I love how some people call them one thing. I'm just going to say that they are like little tadpoles. Now I've jumped over, I think this is a size 2 in my hand. So I've jumped over to that, not having any issues whatsoever with it either. So the Small brushes for me seem to be working really well. The details, the fine points, not having as many problems with it. And I'm just going to try one of the bigger brushes here. I'm just trying to conquer it. And I'm not doing a really great job, but it is working much better on the skin than on the paper. That's a nice thing. The only ones that I seem to be having a real problem with are the larger ones, and that is probably just me. I would love to know if you're using these brushes, what your thoughts are, or how they perform for you. For me, the larger ones, the 11-12s, I'll have to just practice with those. If we're looking here at the smaller ones, I'm not having any issues. So I'll play around with these a little bit more, but just want to kind of give you a first look at my experience with these brushes. So thanks again, Mile High, for giving these to me and letting me play around with them.